Be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors hereby enters, well, I want to call this meeting to order. Be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors hereby enters into closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following. Discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, discipline, or resigning of specific officers, appointees or employees of any public body. 1, Agency on Aging. 2, Community Services Board. 3, Library Board. 4, Parks and Recreation Commission. 5, Planning Commission. And 6, Personnel. Discussion and consideration of the acquisition of real property for public purpose or of the disposition of the public held property where this discussion in open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body. That's number 1, Park and Ride, and 2, Allegheny Springs Consolidated Site. Do we have a motion to go into?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Fix?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
I have 4 ayes.
Need a motion to go out of closed meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Fix?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. Paulettis?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Yeah, you can do the certification.
Want me to do the certification?
Yeah.
Okay. I need a motion. Well, first of all, where are we at here? The next item is to certify the closed meeting, whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was held and conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying this public meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Do I have a motion, please?
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
The only thing I would like, in the closed session, when we were discussing the Planning Commission, you stepped out of the room during those discussions and were not present. And I don't know if we need to add that, but I'd like to
I was
make
going to add that
part
to
of it.
mine.
Okay.
That's fine. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Fix?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Paulettis?
Aye.
5 ayes.
And let me make a confirmation. I was not there for the whole meeting, and I did step out during the discussion of the Planning Commission selection. Okay. The next item on the agenda is our invocation, and following that will be the Pledge of Allegiance presented by Mr. Meadows. If we will please rise, and we'll have a moment of silence and consider what's before us tonight.
Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item is one of those good things that happens in Montgomery County. We have a presentation for the Montgomery County All-Stars Dixie Ponytail softball team. And they were the 2013 District 6 champions. And if I may, I'd like to have Mr. Brown and myself come up, and if you'll stay seated as we call your name, we'll hand out your certificates, and we'll probably want to get a photo. Am I correct? Somewhere?
Yeah, we can have it.
Okay, with everybody, all right? And at that time, the rest of the board members can come down.
And if it's any parents up there want to take pictures when we're presenting, just move on up and help yourself take pictures if you like.
I'll call out the names, and Mr. Brown will hand out the certificates. And what we might do is after we hand you the certificate, we can run up behind here. And our first certificate is for Lacey Bishop. And our next one is Tori Ward. And Skylar Dehart. Rachel Hardiman. Leah Harrison.
Yeah, but you're feeling good, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like this.
Rebecca Hardiman. Addison Huff. Mackenzie Lawrence. Emily Scales. Jalen Shepherd.
We'll send it to you.
Abigail Wilson. Manager Rick Boyd.
As I say, go, let's go, Rick.
Congratulations. Mr. Bowie Dehart.
I think this sweet lady will take a picture of you.
I bet you.
Yeah.
That's better than all.
Coach William Harrison. Coach Mike Hinckley. Coach Randy Lawrence. Chris Usher. And a special thanks to our Park Director, Mitchell Hall. I don't know how we're gonna squeeze it all together. Well, we'll just stand up back here.
Yeah, we can stand up where we are.
Make it back. We're a little bit tall.
We can come.
I know, I get to go to the back.
No, you're fine, because you don't have that man to
Boss Bill, where is
All right, ready? 1, 2.
Look in this direction for a moment. Look over this.
Look left.
One more.
Thank you. Thanks, ladies.
Congratulations. It might all be gone. Some of them are.
Well, that's always a good way to start a meeting. To have something positive like that. The rest of the meeting, I hope will go as well. So, the next item on the agenda, and I just lost it. Why do I do this?
Maybe some legs.
I had a wrong button somewhere. Got it.
Yeah, 26, yeah. That ought to pop to it.
This thing's so touchy.
Yeah, then you hit one of them.
They're like probably 12 age.
All right. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing. The following public hearing was advertised pursuant to law in the Bergs section of the Roanoke Times on August 1st and August 8th, 2013. And the subject of the public hearing is an amendment to a special use permit for Anthony R. Graves. Derry, if you'll take that for us.
Thank you. This application is in the Mount Tabor Magisterial District C, and it's shown, the parcel is shown in the highlighted area here in the yellow. The stripes mean that we have an existing special use permit on this property, and we also learned from this map that we're located in an agricultural A1 zone. This is an aerial photograph of the property. As you can see, it's a little over 40 acres. And the site for the meat processing facility is right here, 2703. There's another structure on this property. It's a single-wide manufactured home. Property is owned by Anthony Graves, and he is the owner of the company Hunter's Burden, LLC. And they have been conducting business there for a number of years. This is an aerial, a closer view of the aerial shot, showing you the location of the existing structure right here. And I wanted you to see the proximity of the other dwelling units. There again is Mr. Graves' single-wide manufactured home. There's an individual who lives off the hill behind him here. And then the closest residence is right here at 2721 Flatwoods, and then 2745. In the packet, I gave you some aerial photographs of those structures from the ground as well. Okay, so this request is made by the owner to allow, in addition to the building, to provide an opportunity to expand his meat cutting space and build an attached accessory dwelling unit. What we have is the existing special use permit was approved in 2001, and it limited the size of the structure to 1,000 square feet, and that it could be only used for that meat cutting facility and nothing else. So when we look at the surrounding properties there in the Mount Tabor district, this piece of property lies in an area that has a mix of uses, but we see predominantly residential right there around him with some agricultural uses as well. But we have some single-family homes, we have some manufactured homes. Everything is zoned agricultural A1, and there are a couple of forestal districts there as well. So the board did approve this in 2001. You put some conditions on the approval. There were 8 of them. I gave you a copy of those in your packet. In 2006, the EQ had to get involved, and they issued a warning letter regarding the burning of the inedibles that were left over from the processing of the deer meat. So in February, I was out there to follow up with an inspection for the special use permit to check on the compliance for the conditions of the permit. And we had a couple of issues that we had to deal with at that point. We had a couple of little buildings that were built without a permit. I did see a small amount of burning of the deer waste on site, and the vegetative buffer that was required by condition number 4 of the original permit had been cut. Now, we talked with the owner, and Mr. Graves has taken steps to correct all those problems. The unpermitted structures have been now removed from the site. The vegetative buffer has been replanted using a double row of arborvitae trees, and he spaced them 12 feet on center. He indicated to me that there was a windstorm, and these were quite tall trees that were existing. There were pines, and they basically didn't have any limbs left on the lower part of the tree. So a lot of them had broken from the storms. And so the contractor came in and cut them out and took out most of our buffer yards. So he's planted those back now. He also says he has eliminated the burning area completely on site.
Did he receive some information from another governmental body about burning and giving him the okay, but without consulting you?
He says that he was okay with one agency, but not with another. Yeah. So there was some confusion there, and so to eliminate that, he's agreed to just take out the burning altogether. It was more like a little campfire kind of situation when I saw it. I don't know what it was like in 2006, but anyway, we've had that discussion. I think hopefully we're beyond that now. So he was required to take care of the problems because I can't take an application for processing based on our county code unless the violations are cleared from the site. So we want to talk about impacts. This use is agricultural related. And the first one we want to talk about is transportation. This particular business would not require review under the VDOT Chapter 527 regulation. This business is also served by a private well and a private septic system. You got copies of the permits there in your packet. If you all were to approve the special use permit, we would have we would have Virginia Department of Health take a look at those existing permits to make sure that nothing needs to be upgraded, or if it does, what needs to take place at that point before we issue construction permits. There should be no impact to the public school system from this application. And, I mean, basically, we're not adding anything but a personal dwelling for the owner and just a little bit larger facility space. So, Mr. Grave also states to me that the way this works, he shouldn't really have any increase in traffic. He just has an increase in space to produce some specialty products that he's making out of the deer meat that each individual brings to him. So he doesn't have retail sales on site either, and does not desire to do that at all. The comp plan designates this area as rural, and we feel like that if this were to be approved, it would be in conformance with the comprehensive plan land use designation. So we have an existing one-story building out there. It's about 972 square feet. The expansion that's proposed by the owner would be about 1,346 square feet on the first floor. So basically he's going to come out and add to the end of the structure, kind of making an L-shaped type of building out of it. On the first floor, you get the cutting room and the customer service area, his storage and freezer spaces that he needs. His business has grown such that he really needs the freezer space. Also on the second floor, we get 1,309 square feet addition to provide that small residential unit. We call that an accessory dwelling unit because he already has one dwelling on the property. So it'd be one bedroom, a bath and a half, a kitchen and a living room, very, very small. That would bring the total business space to 2,281 square feet and the total structure to about 3,590 square feet. As I said, that will be 2 stores. So we think that the orientation, when you get to the site concept plan, the orientation of the addition should help block a little bit of the lights that's being projected across to the neighbors from the car lights that are coming in there. He's also moved some of the parking as well that we think will redirect the lights away from the neighbors and more into the interior of his property. Employees, Mr. Grace really doesn't keep full-time employees. He hires 3 to 6 subcontractors during the peak part of the season to assist with the meat processing. He has indicated to me that if this special use permit revision is approved, he would like to immediately construct the freezer for use this fall. Other improvements would be made based on his financing availability at the time. So we've talked with him about working with the health department. We've talked with him about working with the building official to get all the permits and so forth that he needs to move forward, should you decide to approve this application. So here's a photograph of the entrance. This is Flatwoods Road that you see, and then to the right there is his private driveway. And then that's traveling part of the way up the driveway. You'll see the existing building there in the background. This is a view of the parking lot. I'm kind of standing in what's shown to be about 4 parking spaces on your concept plan. This now is part of the parking here, but we also have a drain field in that area too. So I want to protect that. And in the background, I'll give you a closer shot in a minute, but this is one of the dwellings that would be most affected, and then there's a brick house right back here. It's like the second lot over. Closer shot. This is a photograph of the reestablished buffer. The arborvitae have been planted. This is the house 2721. That's his closest neighbor, and then 2745. He also has a neighbor behind him up here, but it's hard to see that except from the aerial photograph. So, talking about the addition going in this area here, making an L-shaped building, more or less. Now, this is the survey plat or the concept plan. Right here is the existing facility. The addition would go in this area, if you can see my mouse. And then here is the septic system here. And then this property line is where we have the closest neighbors there to the, and then this is the area where we planted the arborvitae. We gave you a couple of shots of the floor plans. Downstairs, the storage and the freezer space and cutting room addition here, and then upstairs, the basic little one-bedroom apartment and elevation views as well. So we notified the adjoining property owners. We did take a couple of phone calls from folks asking what was going on. Basically, I could redirect them to the website to see the materials, and basically after folks figured out what was happening, they didn't pursue it anymore, didn't have any further questions. So we met with the Planning Commission on August 14th. There were absolutely no public comments whatsoever regarding this case during the meeting. So there was a motion to approve and a vote of 6-0 for the approval with some revised conditions. And I won't go through each and every one of these. It would take too long to do that, to read them all. But basically, the Planning Commission added the words processing waste in item number 4 to help focus what needed to be indoors, that we would contain all that in a secure area indoors so that we wouldn't have any contamination inside with the leftover meat products.
Can you, it says shall be collected on a regular basis for proper disposal. Who collects them, or how do you?
There's a company called Valley Protein that collects that for recycling into, I believe it might be dog food. We can confirm that. The applicant is here in the audience this evening. But it's reused. It's not.
So they have a regular schedule where they come and get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
And he has plastic containers inside. I saw those when I was out there initially in February. So if any of you have any questions of me, I'll try to help answer those. Otherwise, the applicant is here if you have questions of him.
Okay, any questions, Ms. Jenkins?
I don't really have a question, I have a comment, I guess, and that is that he does a big business over there, and it's because of like the Hunters for the Hungry and this type thing. He is doing a big service to the area, not just there, but I think they come out of Roanoke and different places that folks go out and kill a deer and don't know what to do with it. They bring it in there, and somebody can eat that thing for a while.
That's right. Some of the deer are coming out of Roanoke County, the city of Roanoke as well, and it's thinning the deer population there that are giving so much problems in the more congested areas of the area. So it's good that somebody can use that for food instead of wasting it.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments?
Thank you very much.
Okay, would the owner like to speak to the board, or do we have any questions of?
Yes, please. Appreciate this opportunity, and my name's Anthony Graves, I own Orangeburg. And that was actually hitting on some of the reasons we need to expand. We've gotten into specialty meats, but it's summer sausage, bologna, hot dogs, all different kinds of breakfast sausages and stuff. And we're really getting limited on, with all the spices, the casings, different equipment we're using. We just got a little square building and nowhere to put all this stuff. And also I've been expanding with Roanoke City and the city of Salem, and with Laura from Hunters for the Hungry on a lot of kill permits and whatnot for one of the Hunters for the Hungry programs. And we're taking any of those that we can get, and we have to store them after we process them until they get a truck or tractor trailer load to take it to whatever facility needs it, be it a food bank or a food pantry or whatever. And the freezer space is just not there at this time. You know, we're just getting so many beer from the different cities and whatnot. They want us to store it to make it worth their while to come up there and get a load. But, you know, we're just running out of room. So, I mean, that's basically the reason we're trying to expand. You know, our customer base is pretty well set. It's really hadn't grown. It just really depends on the deer population as to how many deer we get per season. That varies with the acorn crop and the rate and everything else. But we are getting quite a few more city deer. And we love the program, we love doing it, and we're getting a lot of publicity out of it too, I'm not gonna lie about it. So. And I'll be more than happy to take any questions if you have any.
Any questions of the board members for Mr. Graves? Thank you very much, Mr. Graves.
I appreciate your consideration.
And at this time, if there's anybody in the audience who would like to address this public hearing, please come forward and state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. Seeing no one, we'll close this public hearing. The next item on the agenda is public address, and we have nobody signed up for the public address, but if anybody in the audience would like to come forward and address the board, please come forward, state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes, please. Seeing no one, we'll close our public address. The next item is addendums, and we don't have any. The next item is consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda?
Just appreciate the transfer for the sale of the property. Thank y'all for doing that.
Absolutely.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Chair Lettuce?
Aye.
5 ayes.
The next item is work session. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. The first item on our...
Got a vote.
pardon? Oh,
Got a
vote. Roll call.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Lettuce?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, the next item is work session. Do I have a motion? I've already done that.
Yeah. You're okay.
Proposed Little River Special Project Area. And Mr. Sandy will...
Yes, if you recall at the last board meeting, I brought this up under county administrator's comments, and there was some question about the board approving something or agreeing with moving forward with something before the property owners in that area had been talked to, and so the decision was made to bring this back as a work session and have some further explanation. And Steve, I'll recognize you to introduce our guest and the further explanation.
All right. Yeah, I'll turn it over to John and Tommy from the New River Land Trust and let them kind of go over what the special projects area designation is. And I guess there was a memo, I think, that you got in the last packet and talked about. We do have one of these areas in Catawba now. It's about 52,000 acres. That's designated as a special project area, so this would be the second one in the county that's being considered along the Little River area. So I'm not sure who's going first. Tommy gets to go first.
So this is the Montgomery Little River special project area that we're proposing. This is just kind of coverage of the most recent data set that we have for current conservation in Montgomery County. It shows private conservation easements and public conserved lands, and also shows the current Montgomery County, the Catawba Valley special projects area. And there's also one in Floyd County. The one that we're proposing would be a continuation of that kind of special projects area.
So the one that we have now is really in the northern part of the map, the tan color, and the one that you're talking about is the orange at the bottom, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just wanted to
The one in the northeast is along Mount Tabor and Blacksburg Road.
Okay.
That's kind of the predominant roads going through that area.
Thank you.
So right now, currently, there are, in private conservations, there's 75 in the county, and that's a little more than 15,000 acres. Moving to next, this is a more of a zoomed in of the boundary, and this also shows the current Little River one based in Floyd County. The Floyd County one was based off the viewshed off of the Little River. This one, the Montgomery County one, is based off of the watershed, just because the terrain's a lot different in Montgomery County than Floyd and around the Little River. So this is, watershed actually goes into Reiner, but I'll show how we kind of cut that spot out because of future land use. Just kind of some quick facts about it. The boundary that we have designated is all, the future land use is all resource stewardship and rural. It's all, like I said before, it's based off the watershed. Traditionally, the area is in agriculture, and a lot of it's in land use taxation, and there's a lot of ag forest districts as well. And that area alone is there's already 13 easements, more than 2,000 acres preserved. 42% of the soils in that area are important ag soils. And there's 82 registered historic and archaeological resources in the property as well. In the area, 4 natural heritage species, and then also the forest in the area is recognized by the Virginia State Department of Forestry as high to moderate value. So this shows kind of the easements in the area, and the next map kind of gives you an example of the future land use. So the watershed actually goes up into Roanoke, like I said before, but we cut that area out because the county sees further expansion of Roanoke. The boundary, there's not going to be, zoning-wise, there is some rural designation in the center. There's one of the villages, but besides that, it's all resource stewardship.
I guess one of the questions that I know came up was what restrictions would this place on the property that would be within this special project area if this was approved or adopted?
There are no restrictions. It just, what it is, it's more of an internal designation for the Virginia Doors Foundation. So it allows property owners with smaller properties going down to 25 acres be eligible for Virginia, to be able to apply for an easement with the Virginia Doors Foundation. So if your property is located and it doesn't have any restrictions on it, it just makes you smaller properties eligible. Because right now their threshold is 50 acres or larger, but it drops it down because they recognize the high conservation value in the area.
You say it's back down to 50 acres for easement?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay, I thought they'd gone up to, they tried to go up to 200 at one point and came back to 100, so.
It was.
It fluctuates, it has over time.
Yeah, we have an easement on our farm, and we're right in that area there, so. Any questions of the board?
I'll ask one. This designation doesn't cost the taxpayers in Montgomery County any additional money, do they? Do it?
No.
No,
Oh,
it's not.
okay, good. Just want to make sure.
Anybody?
Let me ask a question, and actually it has nothing to do with your land, but you may know the answer. Could you, if you were so desired to, give away 10, 15 acres of that land, and they could use it like for a ball field or whatever? Is that something, is there any?
If it's in a conservation easement,
Mm-hmm.
Generally easements do not provide for that, most of the ones we work on. However, there are easements in numerous places across the state that are in public parks. There is some public access in the easement in the Elston area that provides access to the North Fork of the Roanoke River, although it's just a corridor area. But generally, they're not active recreation sort of parks, like I think what you're asking about. For instance, a property that might be, that certainly would be eligible, and the town of Blacksburg's talked about, would be the Heritage Park property off of Glade Road. But again, the intention would not be for soccer fields or baseball fields, that sort of thing.
That wouldn't be the intention, but it could be done, possibly, or not?
I don't have a definitive answer to that question. There's no easement in our service area that I'm aware of that has that sort of active recreation as a component of it. But that's not to say there aren't some in Virginia. So I can look into it and get back to you with an answer.
Okay, look, if you're looking, look in District C and see what you see. It just happens, it's in the Charles-Williston area, and that's, you know, I know a lot of it has been put in conservation easements, but I'm interested in, get somebody to give me a piece of land, back to the ball field down there.
Yeah, I mean, generally easements are to encourage traditional rural uses. So usually they continue to be managed as farms, as actively managed forest lands, hunting, fishing, that sort of thing. Again, I just don't know of a case for ball fields, but we'll find out. We'll get back to the board.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Steve?
Just to wrap that up, that they are looking for a letter of support for the designation before they move forward. The Virginia Outdoor Foundation Board will ultimately have to approve the designation, but they won't consider it. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. They won't consider it if the local county does not support the designation. So before they can move forward, they're looking for a letter of support that can come from the county administrator, if you desire.
And I'll just add to that, if there's the desire of the board to do that, I mean, by consensus, you can just instruct me to do so and I'll move forward. But I wanted to make sure you had a chance to ask any questions before I sought that consensus. So,
Okay, is there any?
May I add one thing?
Wouldn't they prefer a resolution adopted by the board, I would think, and then a consensus, I would think?
No, he's looking for the consensus for him to write letters.
I just wanted to also emphasize that no easements will get done here in Montgomery County or anywhere generally in Virginia without it going by the county. The county gets to sign off on every easement project. Generally, the Planning Commission looks at them to make sure that they're in compliance with what the county's plans are for the future of the county. So, again, this wouldn't be any sort of restrictions. It would just be something to recognize the area as having a lot of conservation value and allowing those landowners with smaller acreage more of an opportunity. But even those easement projects, if they come through, will go through the county before they get okay.
thanks.
Do I have a consensus from the board? Okay. Do you think we need a resolution, Marty, or?
I mean, I would think just to make a paper trail that you're authorizing.
Okay, we can do that after work session.
To send a letter, supporting me that this land be put into that special project area. Yeah, that's what I would recommend. Paper trail.
I couldn't hear you.
Could Marty?
He's saying to do it like a letter.
You could do it now, or we could do it on the next agenda.
Yeah.
You can have it on your agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be better.
Then everybody could vote on it.
That'd be fine. September 9th.
September 9th.
Is that okay? And I'll have it to you September 10th. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Now I gotta find where I'm at again. All right, the next item on our work session is the Montgomery County Regional Waste Authority. There's our troublemaker.
Alan, thank you for being here. At one of the previous meetings, we've had several discussions about some of the regulations and some of the concerns about the manifest that was discussed as far as what could or couldn't be dropped off at the convenience sites. And I know that Bill back there has tried to help straighten some things out, but there still was some confusion. So, Alan, we appreciate you being here to help kind of walk us through what's going on with that.
No problem. I want to apologize for my voice. I'm fighting the cold.
I know.
It's a little bit rocky. So. Yeah, I have some comments to talk to you about on the construction debris manifest, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Could you bring the mic up a little closer to you? I'm having a hard time
A
hearing.
little closer to my mouth. How's that?
Okay.
The Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, through rules and regulations, require permitted disposal facilities. In MERSWA, the Montgomery Regional Solid Waste Authority, we are a permitted facility. We need to properly handle, transport, and dispose unauthorized waste, especially that generated from construction debris. Now, ever since MERSWA was created back in 1995, waste brought to the facility has always been visually inspected to keep out unauthorized waste. But a year ago, we had to make sure all of our I's were dotted and T's were crossed, especially when it came to unauthorized waste and construction debris. So we started using the construction debris manifest, which at the time was also being used at the landfill that we take all of our waste to. Now, unauthorized waste found in construction debris that we cannot accept at our facility or transport to landfill. Here's some examples of them. PCBs, they're found in transformers, some older fluorescent light ballast. Asbestos, found in older shingles and siding, roof tiles, caulking, putty, floor tiles. Lead, found in paint, contaminated soil. Hazardous waste, it's more like the questions are asked: is it ignitable? Is it corrosive? Is it reactive? Is it toxic? Such as solvents and commercial chemicals. Is it radioactive, such as nuclear fuel? Or contaminated soil, which can be contaminated by petroleum, lead, or chemical spills. So these are the unauthorized waste found in construction debris that we look for at our facility. We also look for free liquids, barrels, lead batteries, and tires, which are also unauthorized waste that is unable to be disposed at the landfill. And again, all these unauthorized wastes are detailed in our permit that was approved through DEQ. And we wrote the permit from the regs that they require us to write it from. So it's the Department of Environmental Quality. So if a construction job, and this is what we set up, if a construction job requires a building permit, then the construction debris manifest is picked up at the same time the building permit is picked up at the building department. We tried to make it as simple as possible for the contractors that are, or homeowners that are doing a big project and require a building permit. Now, contractors or individuals then bring the filled out construction debris manifest to the Montgomery Regional Solid Waste Authority. And if all the boxes are checked no, which means there's no unauthorized waste, and the form is signed, then they dispose of the waste at the transfer station. If there's a yes checked, which may mean there may be one of these unauthorized wastes, we can then work with that particular contractor or homeowner to help them in properly handling and disposing of that particular waste. Or if it's a lead, we help them do a test. If it's a shingle, we help them go to a lab and make sure it's non-friable or friable asbestos. Because shingles that aren't non-friable or friable asbestos, we can accept. So if the public, this is where it gets a lot of fun, if the public brings in carpet or pallets or a sink or a toilet or pieces of drywall or pieces of wood, we do not consider construction debris. And a construction debris manifest is not necessary at the Montgomery Regional Solid Waste Authority. But if they have a trailer load, a pickup truck full, or a significant amount of material such as 2x4s and drywall and concrete, or shingles, or materials that are generally involved with a construction project, we have them fill out the construction debris manifest and work through the process with them. Now, let's talk about the Montgomery County drop-off sites. They are not a permitted facility through the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, but they do take their waste to a permitted facility. And that is why, and I looked into this, that is why years ago, counties all over Virginia created codes to keep construction debris and unauthorized waste from being dropped off at their drop-off sites. And when these codes were originally created, contractors were the largest producers of construction debris, and the codes kept contractors from bringing their construction debris to the drop-off locations, which is what was needed. Plus, contractors, they're licensed and they know how to properly handle and dispose of hazardous waste and construction debris at a permitted facility. Nowadays, though, many years after the code is written, homeowners are also doing renovation projects and creating construction debris. And it looks like it has created a gray area, quite a few a lot of gray area, and questions about the county code at the Montgomery County drop-off sites. Like they're asking what household material is construction debris and what isn't. And I can see how that could happen very easily. At MRSA, we have our scale house. We have an inbound, outbound scale. We have our few scale house employees, and they know what to look for and they know what to do. The county, you have multiple drop-off facilities. You have multiple staff, and I could see how it could become confusing on what is a household construction debris and what isn't. And I'm here to apologize for any confusion that this construction debris manifest has created. And I'd be happy to continue working with the county staff to put all this confusion to rest. And I know it can happen. I know we can do it. And I just think it might take us working together and looking at the codes. I looked at your codes the other day. The construction code, the demolition code is really good. We may need to work on some other lists of how much material is too much material and what material can be accepted. Can a pallet be brought in? Yes, that sort of material. And again, I'd like to let you guys know I'm more than willing to work with county staff to resolve any of the confusion that this has brought about. That wasn't the intent of the construction debris. It was just to follow the legal law of the Department of Environmental Quality, keep the unauthorized waste out of the landfill, where it can be. So with that, I welcome any questions and be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, I think you're going to have a couple. Want to start with that? Let's start with Chris. Yeah.
All right, if I hear you correctly, because one of the things that people in my district were concerned about is they replace a door, and they're now being told you can't take that door and drop it off at there, and there's no asbestos. This is a door that they just took off because their kid hit it with a baseball bat. And they're told, are you saying that's not construction material? That would be household construction?
That's something I work with the county staff to say, now if a contractor,
if somebody brings in
but if it's just
12 doors and 3 windows.
Correct. Then you know a construction project's going on, a major construction project. The door, no.
So what you're encouraging, it sounds like, is us to give our employees some discretion, maybe some training, so we don't end up with that door being dumped in a hollow someplace,
yes,
or that sink because they're turned away and it's a Saturday and they don't want, and it's past noon and they're not going to drive out to the middle of the county to put a sink in.
Sure.
Well, and one thing we may need to do too, and Bill and I have talked about this, is, and I appreciate the kind words on the county's ordinances now, because they are very strong, but they're so strong that I'm not even sure. I mean, our ordinances comply with what Alan just said, but we may need to put some examples in so that it's a little clearer as well.
And again, you want to keep those because
right,
you want to continue to keep the contractors
right,
from
exactly.
But,
Yeah. Mr. Creed.
Yeah, well, I've talked to you about this one before, and that's scatter rugs, which seems like I have more calls on than anything else. And just get it out of the horse's mouth. How are scatter rugs rated?
furnishing. Like we look at toilets as a furnishing. Carpet would be a furnishing.
They okay to bring to a dumpster?
Drop off site, you bet. But again, your staff has done a great job with your codes. They're just doing what the codes say.
It seems to me that what we need is 2 sets. One for contractors and one for people, homeowners that are doing something to their house. And if we had that and everybody knew that this is, if a little old, or anybody, I was going to say a little old lady, but that don't work. If anybody was to come by and have a door or a window maybe with a hole through it, you know, maybe a kid was playing baseball and he knocked it in the window and Daddy got mad and swung and hit the door, anything like, but 2 or 3 pieces doesn't constitute something that we need to look at. What we need to look at is when they've got a half of a pickup truck load or more. And that is the kind of thing that it seems to me that we need a list saying, here, Mr. Homeowner, you pay taxes here, and
You can throw your scatter rug away.
you can, the worst one I've ever had was the lady whose house burnt down and the kids were there and tried to clean up for her and get some of the stuff and save some of the stuff. They take all the stuff up there, get to the scatter rug, you gotta take it back home. So those type things we need to address and have, don't be afraid to have 2 sets of rules, because that's actually what we do have. We don't have 1 set, we have 2 sets. One is for the homeowner who's working on his own home, and the other is for construction people who are working on either their home to maybe flip or their home because somebody's paying them to come in and do it. And we could make lists fairly simply that would say, hey, here's what we really have to do.
What we can do as well is, as Alan said, we can maintain the code, but we can develop some practical examples of what is allowed and distribute that to the site attendants. And
I've been sitting on a wallboard in my shed for a year now when my son replaced the wallboard in our living room, and I've been afraid to take it down there. So, and it's just a half a piece, But I'm not going to drive from the Floyd County line all the way to the solid waste place at mid-county, with it, so.
You got a ditch where you can throw it in, ain't you?
And I'm glad you brought that up, and Chris has mentioned it before. But before we started these consolidated sites, I live on a long dirt road, and we used to have stuff thrown over our bank. And when we open up that site over in Roanoke and we open up around the county, it's at least 90% cut down, if not 100. I mean, I haven't had to pick up a piece of a stove or a piece of building material off the side of my bank on the farm in several years. And if we start going too hard in the other direction, it'll be right back. So, but I appreciate your time, Mr. Brown.
We, as a county, we're all about public information, and if it's a consensus of this board, I would like to see maybe a 20-minute video that would run on our public assets channel. At maybe one of the sites, you can dump this, but you can't dump that. And it could be just a clip. Every now and then you run it. We run information, the location of our sites on there all the time. We run parks and recreation stuff. But it seems like we can go for 4 or 5 months. We don't have an issue. Next thing you know, an issue comes up. And but this would be something that the general public can see, especially if new people move into the community. There's a lot of transient population on the other side, and when they looked at the access channel, they could see this and say, oh, this is what I can dump, this is what I can't dump. And I think that would be some continuous information that's put out there to the public. And I think we may be getting something with another cable company that's going to
we're working with Christiansburg to have something going hopefully very soon.
And so that's going to pick up a lot of more citizens instead of that half on that side. So if it's a direction that the board think we ought to go as far as making an information video regarding this, I think it would help out a whole lot.
Well, Bill, could we also put it on the website? Like
Yes.
if you were new and you moved into the county and you had access to a computer, you might be like looking through, and that would be helpful.
Yeah, on the county website where you could just tap into it would be information that
Absolutely.
it would make it a whole lot easier, and less stressful for us when your neighbor jumps you and says, well, I tried to throw this away. Well, if you find out it might have been a new site attendant that wasn't familiar with the old and with as many sites as we got and part-time employees, I guess it's somewhat difficult to keep them all on the same page. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but one thing that MERS is doing, as well as the site up in College Mountain, the big dump site up there, they're starting to have more and more times a year that you can take things such as paint or hazardous waste of any kind. You can take it there and get rid of it. And it don't cost you anything. You just drive through, they take it out and put it on something for you.
But we have a hazardous thing, or somebody has a hazardous thing.
Every year we do it.
We do
They've
it.
done it once over there, and they're going to do it again.
Yeah, in October, we have another household hazardous waste event.
So at this point in time, we need to look at amending some of our code. Is that what I'm hearing? That we need to take that up? Or do we need to start looking at maybe perhaps training our employees? What do we need? What does this board need to do? I guess my question is to fix this situation, or do we think that we've got it fixed through educating our staff?
I think we want to be careful in amending the code, because I agree with Alan that it's pretty solid in terms of what's there now. I do think, as Alan and Bill discuss the practicality of what we've talked about, we need to make sure that, number one, we're in compliance. That's one of the concerns I think we've had, is if we start accepting certain things at the consolidated sites, we're actually violating our own code. So we need to make sure that we're addressing that, but we also need to keep in mind that we're trying to make it as practical and reasonable as possible and incorporate that. So what I've heard tonight is I think we're all on the same page. We just need to take a look at providing better information, and I think we can certainly do that, providing some public information spots as to what's allowable and whatnot, and then also look at areas that we may need to address the code to make sure we're not, like I said, violating our own ordinances.
And the reason I say that is, and some of our workers are really creative and they're very helpful. I think all of us saw that in email recently. We got someone who was very helpful and helpful. And they made some homemade signs. No construction materials, period. And so they've got a piece of wood and they've written it on there. And so maybe we need to make sure that some of our staff are aware that there are some household construction materials are okay. And that's just the suggestion I have for our county administration.
Well, that's good, because I guess if you that much to the letter of the code, if you come in with a little block like that of 2 before it, that's construction
can't take
material.
it.
You can't,
And we've
take
had
it in.
people
So-
refuse them.
So there needs to be a little training, a little discretion used.
Get you a back termite fruit tank.
Just bring them out to the farm and put them on the wood pile. So, any other comments?
Thank you for coming.
Alan,
Thank you
thanks for
very
being
much,
here.
Alan.
Appreciate it. Hope you feel better.
I know that there was a citizen who wrote us a letter. I was wondering if we may be able to respond. I believe it was Mr. Meadows.
Mr. Meadows.
That wrote us a letter. If
Yeah.
we could have the staff send him a letter and say, kind of give him a little update of what now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
All right, the next item is our IGIS and Mr. Persall and Mr. Sandy.
Yes, we wanted to take this opportunity to show you the new IGIS website that's been developed and that we've had consultants working on here this summer, and some of the changes that have been made, some of the new things that we like about this new site, and some of the things you can do with it. So I'm going to let Bob start, and he's going to run through some of the old, and then talk about the new, and then I'll come back at the end to talk about some of the other neat features that we've got with the new site.
Thanks, Steve. In 2002, we began our quest to produce an internet mapping site We did that on behalf of the county's reassessment committee. They wanted to be able to show valuation, so we did that. We did it internally ourselves. In 2005, we were asked to do this again, but this time we felt that not only did we want to have a website for reassessment, but we also felt that we needed to have a general county internet mapping site. So we produced. Sorry. This is in your packet. So we are now 8 years into the 2005 site. The technology is no longer supported. It certainly doesn't work with the newer type of devices like tablets and mobile computing. And most of all for us, and one of the things we prided ourselves on with GIS is that when we do something, we always try to find as many different uses of that data, of that technology as we can. And one of the things we haven't been able to do is integrate it with our land development management system, land development office. That's the application that drives the processes in planning and GIS as well as in our permitting and inspections departments. We also looked at some of the upcoming e-government initiatives that you all have been involved in county staff, as well as our latest one, the tourism initiative. In early part of 2013, we prepared an RFP. We consulted with our other county agency partners. We discussed this at the county's TLC committee. And in February, we released an RFP. 6 firms responded. The county selection team included a number of county departments. We also had Phil Martin, our IT director, on the committee, as well as Lisa Bleakley, our tourism director. Price quotes had a wide variance, over 200K difference, which we thought was astounding. Ovila, an Estonian firm with an office in Richmond, won the selection process because of their innovation and the fact that Estonia, for those of you who don't know, it runs their entire country on eGov. Everything they do is on the internet. They vote on the internet. They do their land development type processes on the internet. They literally do everything with the internet. So we thought we were in very good hands with them. We signed the contract at the end of May, and they said, well, we can have this ready in 2 months. And we kind of said, well, our last site took us a year to have the consultant do for us. Are you really sure? And they said, yes, we'll have it done in 2 months. And in fact, they've done it in 2 months. In fact, they had a working site for us about 2 weeks after we signed the contract with them. That showed us their prowess with internet mapping and certainly eGov. To date, we've got the IGIS and Planning and Zoning Portal, which is in the final testing. I'm going to show that tonight to you. They've begun discussions with permitting and inspections. They would like to be able to expose more of their information, such as correction reports. If an inspector goes out in the field, we recently wrote a field application for the inspectors, so when they go out in the field and do an inspection on a piece of property, they take a tablet computer with them, they fill all the information out, and if they have an air card plugged into their tablet, or they drive by a McDonald's, or they come back in the office, they can upload that information. We're trying to reduce the amount of time between the field operations, and people can hear the results of an inspection. But they'd like to be able to have their information up there as quickly as possible. Also, certificates of occupancies, which are really important to people that need that. Steve Phillips has also discussed about having an animal control portal available. The animal control officers are very limited in terms of what technology they have available, and I think he believes that that's something that could be very valuable for them. And in certain tourism, they've been having discussions with Lisa, and I think they're in a prototype building phase now with that. But there's many other uses as well. Voter election results. I look at every time we do an election here, and we have write stuff on a whiteboard, or we have some charts, or we use some television monitors. The things we could do more dynamically with voter elections. An Info 311 Citizen Portal, all the things that we do now that we didn't do 10 years ago to support our citizens, to provide better customer service. Something like that begs to have a portal such as that. Public special needs, bus routing, pickup locations, bus tracking along routes. Public schools, we do include the public school attendance zones on our website. We always have for them, but we don't give them any indication regarding the routes. That's a piece of textual information they have on their website. That certainly is a good application. I'm going to switch it over to the live demo, and I'd like to make a statement that part of what we did here, we had to do some things internally, especially with our IT department. And Ethan Boyer, who was started with us as an intern here several years ago, is now one of the IT staff, wrote an interface to expose an LDO table that our consultants needed to be able to debug it for this website. He did that process in a very short period of time, and he's truly impressive. He's a very talented young man. The first time, and if you all have your iPads and you'd like to go along with us, I'm more than happy to give you the web address. You can. This is on a test site. If you'd like to go along with this, please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to.
What's the web address?
He gave this to the planning commission.
Yes, I did.
And so I've got mine. It's a lot of fun.
And also, I have to say that your town partners, your two town managers have also seen this as well through the tourism side of it. But the first time you come into the website, if you've never been on it before, you might see this. And this just kind of gives you a little perspective. And one of the things we're trying out with this system is that we're trying to get away from these volumes and volumes of help information that most people don't read. They don't go to a help, they don't click on a help button and do that. We wanted this to be something more dynamic. So we've kind of come up with an overlay. And this overlay shows up at various times. It's context sensitive, and it can always be activated by just clicking the little question mark button, which is down at the lower end of the screen. To get rid of it, you merely just click on the site. As you can see, the site, for those of you used our site before, it looks different. We've tried to stylize it. We've certainly tried to simplify that. I gave the consultants my version that people should be able to learn this in 5 minutes, and if they forget it in 5 minutes, they can relearn it just as quickly. Some of the things we have, and just to show you how the help might work, we have this, which turns on, and basically it tells you what each part does by hitting each of these buttons. It tells you the various things. Now this is a little dark, and they're gonna lighten this up a little bit. We've asked them to do that. But this is a type of help that we think will benefit people. One of the issues that we've had with the current system is that we force people to enter information into forms, into fields, and that's always been an issue for us. And people have gotten used to it, but when we suggested, or we discussed with our consultant about this, they said, well, why don't we try to build or develop a dynamic parcel search? And this is very simplistic, but all you have to really do is just put in an address, and I'll put in our address here, if I can spell it correctly. And you can either press the find button, or you can just press the enter key. Now I'll tell you, that speed of that's running on a server in Estonia. So it's coming all the way across the Atlantic in some way, either via satellite or cable. And this is running on an internal server they have in their shop in Tallinn, which is the capital of Estonia. So you can see it's found that parcel, and you could have put in your last name, first name. You could have put in your parcel ID without the necessity of entering it into a form, and it finds this. A lot of the realtors that we talked to said, well, we just want to know who owns the property and what the community it's located in. So what we did is we had them prepare just a very simple, they call it an information bubble that says the site address, who owns it, which is the Industrial Development Authority, the parcel ID, of course the community is Christiansburg. If you want more detailed information, you come up to the identify button and you click it once. That turns it on. Anything with a white background shows it's active, and you just click it again. And there you have all the information. Now this is something our current site does. But one of the issues we have with the current site is when you want to print that, there's no easy way. And that's been one of the greatest criticisms we've had. With this site, you enter a title, and you can either save it to PDF or print. We'll save it to PDF so you can actually see it on the screen.
I think it was blocked.
Pop-ups, okay. And you can see, here's all your attribute information, here's your map, and it also gives you a pretty legend, which most people don't care about. And that's a much better scenario than what we currently have. Is you can print the map, you can print the attribute, but you can't print them together in there or save them as a PDF. That is probably one of our most criticized lack of function that we have on the current site. Under the layers, we've looked at dramatically reducing the number of layers. One of the other criticisms we received, you have too many layers. We have to turn things on and off. You have to update the map. What we asked them to do is to come up with a more streamlined version of layers. And for instance, in GIS Services, my department, we took 8 different layers and we combined it all in and called it Public Services. And that's got things like your consolidated waste sites, post office, governmental buildings, schools, hospitals, libraries, things such as that. Information that people would want to be able to see displayed on the map. You can also see that I have we have the supervisor and school board districts and school attendance boundaries. If we click that, it automatically turns that layer on. No more updating the map. And if you wanted to find out some information about you all or the school board districts, again, with the identify button, you just click it. And in this case, this is Mr. Creed's district, and it shows the district, the supervisor, telephone number, email for both the supervisors and the school board districts. And this is the type of information people have requested, and we try to make that available. Okay. For the schools, and again, it comes on automatically. And we can do the same thing for schools. And we know that for this particular area, Christiansburg, the elementary school is Falling Branch, the Strand's Christiansburg, the middle school is Christiansburg, and the high school is Christiansburg. That's a very valuable piece of querying or identifying that people want to have. One of the other things that we've done with our site is we've set these layers up to be put away. If all you care about are citizen services and you have a very small screen, you're using a small tablet or what have you, you merely click this and it puts that away. And if you want to open it back up, you can click it again. And if you've got a layer active, it doesn't make it unactive. It just puts it away and hides it when you don't have to worry about it. Same with environmental. And these layers predominantly are used by our 2 departments, by planning and GIS as well as permitting and inspections. But they have great value. One of the things that we've done is we've added in the latest FEMA flood zone. We worked on a project with the state and Virginia Tech here 2 or 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, and we've added those on there as well. One of the nice things about this site is that if you hover your mouse cursor or your thumb, this works fine on a tablet with your thumb or your finger, it'll actually display the address of the parcel. So if you're zoomed out far enough where you don't see the address displayed, you can still determine that. We also added in topography. These are 10-foot contours that were generated from our LiDAR project that GIS did with our 2 town partners back in 2005. If a lot of times with layers, they get very complex and there's a lot of information. Say, for instance, county zoning, and in the past you've had to turn on like a layer description, and you've that's told you. You've had to scroll down through a list and it said, okay, for county zoning, these are all my classes. And that's still available. We haven't taken that away. But what we asked them to do is to do something more dynamic, more intuitive. And so what you do is you can put your mouse cursor over top of the little eyeball between the box and the layer name, and up comes that information. Again, that's more intuitive, more real-time, more dynamic for people to use if they need to know that. And that literally works with any of the layers that have information available to them. We also have tools that we've inserted into this. Location allows you to enter a lat long, like you might do with your GPS unit. If you wanted to go someplace, you could enter that in and display, and it would actually zoom to that part of the map. We also allow for Virginia state plane, which most engineer surveyors use, and UTM, which the federal government uses, and also our sheriff's department. We can measure. You can measure by line length and area. You can also hold down the shift key and just draw free-handed. A major issue that we've seen in planning and GIS, people will come to us and they'll meet with Derry or one of the other zoning folks, and they'll say, I want to do this with my property. I want to put an accessory structure. I want to do something else. And so we have to take the time to draw that for them while they're there. And it takes up valuable staff time. We certainly want to help people. This is something that they can do from their house, from their office. They can draw it on there, and then they can email us that sketch, and we can start some dialogue without them necessarily having to come to the office and either have to wait for us or have to go through that process. So this is a very fledgling thing, but we think it shows great promise and certainly should increase our efficiency. If you want to email the map, which is something we've never been able to do, it'll actually take whatever has been highlighted on the screen. It inserts a map link. You can send that to anybody you want. Put a title on it, email it, and when they click that link, it opens up the web portal exactly to the same spot that you are at when you made the map link. And sometimes that's valuable if you're talking to someone on the phone. They say, "Well, I see the map. Well, I don't see what you see on the map." Well, we can create an exchange that way, either over the phone or through some other mechanism. The print PDF I went over. Capture screen just provides a quick capture of what's on the screen. You can clear the map, and I'm going to let Steve take over now and talk to you about the LDO part of it, which is really the most astounding thing that we've done with the website, how LDO is now integrated into this site and how information can be displayed.
When we went through the interview process and prepared the RFP for this, we really wanted to challenge the vendor to help us get more of our rezoning information, special use permit information, more of the information that you deal with in the public hearing setting, especially out to the public, and make that information more accessible. So we've developed a couple of things, and they've developed some ways to link to that information, which we've never had available before. So one of those, and this is really about anything, but as you actually are looking at a map and you have a question, I don't own this piece anymore, my property line's not in the right place, you may have several different comments like that. We have a chat tool, we have the email tool, so we'll have a system set up where if you're looking at it during office hours and you have a quick question, you can either email it or you can send a chat, which many of you have probably done on different websites, that would come directly to our office and with your question or comment. And then our staff will be able to respond to that and with the right information to, if it's a real estate question, maybe they need to talk directly to the Commissioner of Revenue's office or whatever the case may be. The other thing that we really have tried hard to get incorporated into this is the, let's see, I lost it, Bob. Oh, here we are. The LDO information, application permit status, is what we've called that. So, for instance, the Graves request you had tonight, that information would be available through the IGIS site. You'd be able to find that under the application permit status. You could click on that. You could ask for any status that's pending and search that. And this will give you all the building permits that are currently pending, special use permit requests that are pending, rezoning requests that are pending, all that information that's out there and available on a particular parcel. So here's one. This is another special use permit that is pending. This one will actually go to the Board of Zoning Appeals on September 2nd. And when you click on that information over here, you see that it went straight to the parcel. It zoomed in on the parcel. It gives you a brief information on the parcel. The one piece that's missing right now that will be there when it goes live is there'll be an actual link where you can link back to the information, the permit information, and see all that permit information that's associated with this request. The other thing you'll be able to do is there's a couple bars over here, a couple little tabs on the side here. We've now developed a Facebook page for our department, so there'll be information on there about pending requests and other meeting information and things like that. So you can go directly to the Facebook page if you want. So we've incorporated that. We also have a Twitter account now, so we can actually correspond that way as well. And we can put out information about meetings, upcoming things that are planning, zoning related, the upcoming release of the new IGIS website, those sorts of things that we can put out there. We can also, again, just by clicking on the little envelope, that gives you the access to send feedback via email. So what we're trying to do is make it as easy as possible for people to comment about different requests, to be able to send us information. We also have the ability that somebody could upload a video, upload pictures, send it to us. And the cool thing is, like with the emails, like Bob mentioned earlier, is that when they email something from here, it'll actually give us a link of what they were emailing us about. So we'll know, most people aren't going to know the 6-digit parcel ID that's associated with the parcel they're looking at, but we'll have that information when they email it to us to be able to know, which parcel that they're talking about. The other thing that's new and neat with this is that through this, we'll actually develop now a QR code, which is that kind of a barcode type thing that you've probably seen, the little square, and you can take that with your smartphone and you can take a picture of that with your smartphone and it'll take you directly to a web page. So what we will also be doing now is incorporating that QR code on our notices that go out to adjoining property owners. Currently, we put a long link on there that they can go to our website and they can type in this information. Now all they have to do is just use their smartphone and it'll take it right to them, take them right to this page, and they'll start from here, and then from there they can go to the application information and see what's being proposed. We're also planning to put that same QR code on our public notice signs that are on the property. So if somebody was happened to be walking by in the neighborhood and see that, most everybody has their smartphone with them when they're out and about, and they would be able to get that information right there and be able to have access to the website. So a lot of new and what we think are good things that are coming out with the website. Our whole goal is to make the information easier for people to get and be able to easier communicate back to us with their thoughts, suggestions, ideas, comments, questions, and so forth. So I think that really about covers it. I think Bob might have a couple of things to wrap up. We're planning to have this go live here in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Steve. One thing, that the old site was designed for a desktop. We've successfully used this site on a 7-inch tablet and above. It will work on some of the larger smartphones, and it's not that the code doesn't work. It works okay. It's the screen size is so small. But certainly there's one capability that we had them add to that, and is that with screen real estate being so small, if you're done using this part, you can click this little half moon and it gives you a full map display. And then when you need to have that back, and one of the things we've talked to them about doing is that having that button actually work both ways, where it would go, click it this way, and it would just give you the find and the tabs, and the other way would give you the map. And that's one way that it might be more useful to small phones. But certainly we in fact were over at the town of Blacksburg office talking to him about the tourism use of this, and the town manager immediately pulled out his iPad, turned on his Apple TV, and in about 5 minutes, I gave up even telling him how to use the site because he'd already figured it out. It was amazing. So we think this is, some people will no doubt still need some help, and that's why we've tried to add in again, the help system that basically tells them, for instance, here we've got the tools section open and it says there's a sketch tool, an email tool, and we'll expand the help more and more as we go along. But we think this site is certainly a lot easier for people to use. It's a lot more intuitive, and it should provide us that growth that we want to see in terms of our land development office and other types of land-related enterprise systems. Any questions?
Any questions?
Just comment, it's really neat. I mean, this is what I think we've wanted for a long time. I know if Mr. Gabriel were here, he would be so excited about this because he's really into the technology part of it.
Good. We appreciate your support. You funded my department for almost 12 years now, and I mean, it was a fledgling effort when it first started, and I certainly appreciate your support, and this is really a project that a lot of people worked on. We took the lead in planning and GIS, but there were a lot of folks that helped us with this, and we really think we found a consultant that really is premier, that really wants to work with us. So, some consultants, they come in and they tell you how you should do things. This consultant came in and said, how would you like to do this? And we'll find a way to make that happen. We think that's a real positive aspect for it. And they're very excited. And again, Estonia is just so e-government oriented that I don't think we could have found anyone or any firm that's more in tune to where we'd like to go, I think, with e-government.
My only comment is,
Yes.
what do you do with us who are technologically challenged?
Oh, like you and I?
You play with it.
Probably the three of us over here anyway.
You can play with it. You can play with it.
We never, I mean, there are people, I would tell you the current site, if that site is on its last legs, it's really failing miserably right now. If that site's down for 10 minutes, we have citizens calling us, realtors calling us.
It took me 12 years to figure that one out.
But we're always available. We always take the time, both Mike Sutherland and I take the time to explain how to use the site. No question can't be asked, and if we have to, we'll work side by side with someone. Some people have come in and we've helped them. Some people we've been able to work for over the phone. But certainly we want everybody to be successful. We tried it out with several of our planning commissioners last week. We showed it to the planning commission last week, and I had the chair come in and tell me today that what a great site he thought it was, and how good it could be, and why weren't we charging for it? I said.
Well,
It's a free site. It's a service in Montgomery County. Thanks to you all.
I thank you very much, and you and I have talked about things over the years, and you've been always very helpful.
Thank you.
But I'm going to need your help.
Thank you all very much.
If there's no other questions
Bob.
or comments, thank you very much, Bob. The next item is our revenue sharing.
Yes, just a quick update with revenue sharing. I'll just go through a few things. It's that time of year again when we're getting close to applying for revenue sharing funds. Just a quick recap, revenue sharing program is a program that provides additional funding for localities to construct or improve the highway system within their jurisdiction. There are statutory limitations on the amount of state funds authorized per locality. And those locality funds are matched with state funds for qualifying projects, and those could be new construction or even maintenance projects. So there's an annual allocation that the Commonwealth Transportation Board allots for this program, and the application for program funding must be made by a resolution from the governing body. And then project administration can either be done by VDOT or they can be done locally administered, which last year we started going into that arena. So since 1999, the county has received about $2.5 million in matching funds from VDOT for revenue sharing projects. Currently, there are about $4 million in matching funds that VDOT has allocated that for FY13 and 14 projects that are still out there and have not been completed. And 3 of those projects are proposed to be locally administered. And then 2 of them have local funding, which will be provided by developers of projects and not with county dollars. You have a copy of this in your packet that you could probably see better, but this is just identifying those projects in our revenue sharing program that are current. The current projects either ongoing or in design phase or some phase of the project where they have not been completed yet. And this is a chart that's also in your package that just identifies those same projects, and you can see a couple of them have been completed. 3 of them actually have been completed, and the funding remaining is highlighted there in yellow, and that's one of the things that I'll bring up later in the presentation. I will point out that one of our recent projects that was approved last year, that's a locally administered project, and just to kind of show you how a locally administered project can move along quite a bit quicker through the process, is that project for Old Sourwood Road is kind of an experimental project that we're doing with a product called dirt glue. And that project has been put out to bid, and those bids are due September 4th. And then the project will be locally administered by the county, as I said, and that project is expected to be completed at the end of October. It'll probably actually be done before that. So whereas if it was a VDOT administered program project, we wouldn't, we would be looking at probably sometime next year before we would actually even start the process to put the documents together and put the bid out. This one is one that was able to be processed much quicker through the local process. And because of the product being used, it was kind of time sensitive where it needed to be done while the warmer weather was here before fall got in. So we were able to go through the procurement process, and like I said, it's out to bid now. There's at least 6 contractors that have been sent the information, as well as it'll be available for anybody to bid on the project as well. So as you saw in the chart, there was a couple projects that have been completed there, and VDOT is estimating there's going to be about $208,000 in surplus funds from those projects. So those projects were able to be completed under budget, and those funds are remaining funds, and those can be transferred to any other project that we have listed. So any of those other projects on your chart, that those funds can be reallocated to one of those projects. The FY15 applications, which is what we're coming up upon now, those are due November 1st of this year. And according to VDOT, the FY15 allocations are up to $10 million per locality, and $5 million of that can be for maintenance projects. And then staff just recommends that with the additional funding, with the rollover funding, that we just continue to invest that in the completing the Yellow Sulphur and Mount Pleasant Road projects. Those have been projects that have been going on for several years, and in the past we've been able to transfer some funds to kind of get another 1/10 or 2/10 or 3/10 of a mile of each of those roads completed as we go through the process. So tonight, what I'm kind of looking for is a couple of questions that the board can help us resolve, and as we move forward in this process. And the first one would be, what do we want to do with those surplus funds? Where do we want to transfer those to? And then how much do we want to transfer to which projects? And then the next question would be, does the county want to apply for additional revenue sharing funds in FY15? I believe the last couple of years it's been about $500,000 worth of projects has been about what you've looked at, but I think that's up for discussion each year as far as how much you want to allocate towards revenue sharing projects. And then if you decide you want to move forward with some applications for revenue sharing projects, the next questions would be how much do we want to request? What would be the amount that you'd be willing to invest in the program? And then which projects do you want to apply for to use those funds? So that's kind of the few questions that I had for you, and don't necessarily have to have answers here tonight, but at least to start thinking about and discussing. Since we're in the end of August, that only leaves us, a couple meetings before we have to have projects ready for application. So just wanted to make sure we got that to you, got you thinking about it. You had your road viewers meeting, I think, earlier this month.
End of July, yeah.
Yeah, so if there's any projects that came to mind as you were on the road viewers trip that you want to think about including in the revenue sharing project, we can make a list of those and then get with VDOT on some anticipated costs for those projects.
Any questions?
Absolutely.
You too, huh?
Go Gary's in this time first.
Mount Pleasant is the one that's going to take so much money, for sure. I certainly would like to have that money that was left over to hopefully just to straighten it out. That won't pave it, but maybe if we had that to go with what we had put in it last year in revenue sharing, we may get it straightened to where they can think about paving someday.
Yeah.
So that is one, and the other one is a real easy fix. It can even be done with one of the things that you're doing with the
Old Sourwood
like you're doing
with dirt glue.
Sourwood or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's that little stretch in Flick Drive down there. Maybe it don't have to come all the way through if it could just get over that hump and come up there 150, 200 feet. That would service the people. They could use it then instead of having these big holes. I mean, they get holes down there to swallow a car. So, you know, those are two things. I don't think it would take a whole lot of money down at Flick Drive to actually get that to where they could use it.
You're talking about the part that's not in the state system yet?
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've been for years wanting to go all the way through.
Right.
But they've let them build so close somehow or another to the right-of-way on it. There's not much room to do that, so if we can just go the other way, I'm saying it's not very far, it's a couple hundred feet. And my understanding, all you gotta do is tiller it up and smooth it out and plant your stuff in it. I don't know.
Well, the issue with that one is it's not in the state system, so it'd be under the Rural Addition Program. So it's handled a little bit differently. And then I think one of the major issues there was a drainage easement, if I'm not mistaken, by the church there, I think, which at one time was, I think, holding up that.
Well, the church wouldn't be involved if you don't go all the way.
So, okay, so
all
you're
I'd like to do
suggesting
is just
not
extend
going
it
all the way to
over
Abilene Springs?
Yeah, no use in getting in there and causing a lot of trouble out of the people. You know, everybody kind of knows what they want, and that just a small portion of that would do wonder for the folks that's there. So.
Okay, well, I'll check on that.
And of course, the Mount Pleasant is, you know, all that at one time was one job. It was one thing. They were going to do it. We're going to do Mount Pleasant Road. Well, they broke that sucker into 3 pieces, and it's been a battle trying to get it back. And you know, there were some strange things told that they would do. Turn around and do something else. Oh, if you have this done this way, we instead of being paid, we'll get a whole lot more for you over on the other side. Well, that never did happen.
And Mr. Tuck?
A couple of things. Now, if I remembered Mr. Clark talking with us before, he indicated that Yellow Sulphur was one of, I guess, the most used unpaved roads in the county. Is that correct?
I don't know that to be a fact, but I wouldn't disagree with that. Yeah.
and so, did that play into the staff's recommendation in regards to addressing Yellow Sulphur?
Yeah, it's kind of a parallel road to 460 almost in some ways. So yeah, I mean that would be definitely be one of those higher used gravel roads that if we could get. It's been one that's been on the plan for years and years and years as well. I'm sure you.
You know, and that was something that they talked about when we went on that road viewers thing, that they were going to put it over into some kind of a special deal to where that would get some kind of money as long as it goes. And I forgot where the money was coming from, But I know David Clark was telling us that they were going to put, his recommendation was to put that over into that type, whatever type road that they were talking.
Is that
And I
more
forgot what
rustic?
it was.
No, I can't remember what it was called, but David's hope was that we could find a way to maximize the funding to try to get that.
Yeah, it needs to be dealt
Yeah.
with.
I would suggest that we let our administrator talk to David and see exactly what he was talking about and bring it back to you and see if that works.
Well, that's, and before, I'd like to see how that plays in.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is, I wasn't able to go on your driving tour, but I took my wife on a little bit of driving tour. She's from West Virginia, and she was talking about, I had to take her through Yellow Sulphur, and she was like, we have better roads in West Virginia than this. And so that was one of her points. But at the same time, it seems like if we've got a road and there's so many houses on that road, and it is used to go, I guess, the back way into Christiansburg by some folks, that we need to address that. But I also understand that we've got to take care of the other road as well. So, thank you.
Well, you need anything, Bill?
I don't need any, but I would after Craig talks to David, I would like to see, I guess, some money put towards Yellow Sulphur.
Me too.
And instead of, I believe last time, I think we split $500,000 between his district and those two districts right there.
Yes, sir.
And as long as I've been on that board, this board, people have come from Yellow Sulphur to talk to this board and so forth. And we just need to put some money toward Yellow Sulphur.
Yeah, but
We've
they
done that every year,
when we were
too.
down there, they've been
Yeah.
working on that.
Yeah.
steadily.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
working
Yeah.
on that about every day.
We've had money on those two roads every year, and we do certain portions of it, and we're using two funding pots. We use revenue sharing and we use construction money.
And
You
that
know.
may be where he's getting the construction money.
Yeah,
that
probably
he
from the
said
construction.
Put all that over into that. I
Yeah.
know that they were getting more money than any other road in the county.
Yep,
It had to do with the transportation package that passed and a
right.
boat, well, not a boatload, it's not a boatload at all. Additional funding was coming that he said could be used for that, but I'll clarify that with David.
Yeah, I believe that's what it was, though. But
Well, I want to make a couple of comments here, if I may. I want to thank our staff and Mr. Brew, especially for the efforts of getting this dirt glue project started. What I hope will happen is this will be something that is very, very good. The savings can be tremendous if it works as it's supposed to. And maybe we can start using that on some of these other projects and get more miles per dollar. If I recall some of the figures they were discussing on Old Sourwood, it would be somewhere in the area of $650,000 to pave that road, and we're going to be able to do it for $175 or less with the dirt glue. The budget is $175.
Right, about
And I'd like to know if we can find out what the process is for self-administration. Is this a big deal? Is Mr. Brew the one I know that we have turned this over to do? Is this something we'll be able to continue to do if we can save money on these roads? We've got 5 Points Road in Roanoke, we've got all kinds of roads. This Flick Drive thing, as I understand it and as I saw, when they put down the 300-foot section on Old Tower last spring, it can be done with a farm tractor and a rototiller on the back of it, and not have to go through all this process if we can do something like that self-administered, So,
Right, well, there's still certain processes that we have to go through, even if it's
understand
locally
that.
administered. But like the biggest thing with locally administered is just having the staff available at the county level to do that, whether it's finance or planning or MPO.
well, just remember how much money we can save by doing it, and,
It's, yeah, I mean, I guess it could be money saving, but the biggest thing is time saving.
Yeah.
As far as getting projects to the point where they can be constructed with a private contractor rather than VDOT contractors, and then, you know, administered quicker through the process. The county has more control over the timing of projects, when they start, when they're completed, and so forth. But the biggest issue with that is just having, you know, the staff available to administer the program, because you've got to do the financial reporting, you've got to do the reimbursement request, you've got to go through
Well,
that.
when we talk about staff to do it, we pay Mr. Brewer, I think, on a contract basis for that.
Correct.
And, you know, if we're not hiring an employee with benefits and everything, maybe we can continue to contract somebody, if he retires, with his knowledge to, you know, continue.
Correct. There's still,
Things like
he's
that.
doing project administration, so there's still a county, like finance component.
No, I understand that.
County
I understand
administration
that.
component. But yeah, that's how we're doing this, and it seems to be working well. Now it's just one small project, so
Yeah, and
if we were doing multiple, you know, it may be much more burden.
Yeah.
But what we want to do with Old Sourwood is let it sit for about a year,
Right.
and let's see how it does. And this time next year, we'll be in a position to say, you know, yes, let's go ahead and look at revenue sharing projects using that product.
One of my hopes with this is getting this done in this time frame, this year, maybe when we're ready to start some of the projects that we have on here, like the portion of Brush Creek and portion of Blue Springs. Maybe we can do that with the same product next year, because the cost difference is going to be the product.
Right.
So if it works, maybe we can go in that direction with it and maybe have more carryover for the next year.
Right, and apply for more in the future.
Yeah.
And now that we will have some experience doing the locally administered with that particular product too, we could probably do, you know, a pretty efficient job at running those projects. So.
Yeah. Well, we got 6 people to bid on that, huh? That we offered to bid.
Well, no, we don't have any bids in yet. We've sent it directly to 6
6 people,
contractors
yeah.
that we knew were interested.
Can you tell me where they're at?
No,
No? Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know one's possibly in Roanoke, one's in West Virginia. I heard about one in North Carolina, but I don't know who the other 3 are. So, but I'm anxious to see that.
Yeah, so soon. they'll be-
Sure, and again, I want to thank staff and Mr. Brew for helping me get this to the end of the
So,
project.
So as far as, we'll look at the funding that David was speaking of, and then we'll look at maybe another piece of Mount Pleasant, another piece of Yellow Sulphur, and get some cost estimates to bring back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with that. I don't have any roads in my district, but my citizens, of course, their money goes towards paying for these roads, and I feel like Yellow Sulphur is very highly traveled. It's been on the list forever, and, you know, whatever we can do. And then Gary's got needs down there with both of the roads he mentioned, so I'm in agreement with that.
And we finished Miss Perkins Road this last year. Craig's Grade.
She's got no
Yep, we
more.
finally got that one. That was on there for a long time as
And
well.
I still have about probably close to 50% now of the roads in my district, and Gary's second. Those got a few. I think you might have a couple yet, don't you? Yeah.
Well, I've got some I've never taken you to.
But VDOT miles, I have.
Can't get to them.
We've looked at that.
It's a hiking trail.
And we can go down Fisher's View. Boy, that'll be one to pay for. Thank you very much, Steve.
You're welcome.
All right. I guess we need a motion to go out of work session.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Paulettis?
Aye.
5 ayes.
All right. And back to here. The next item is new business. And the first item is a 6-year road improvement plan for secondary roads for FY 2013 and 2014. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Perez?
Aye.
5 ayes.
The next item is personal property tax relief percentage for 2013. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
That relief percentage just continues to decline. That's all I'll say.
What was that? I didn't.
The relief percentage continues to decline because as our value grows, our percentage decreases.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Chair Perez?
Aye.
5 ayes.
And the next item is appropriation school operating fund transfer. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Craig, could you explain this school operating appropriation adjustment fund?
Sure. When the county appropriates funds to the schools, they're appropriated in 5 categories. And during the course of the year, everything runs through those 5 categories. At year end, they realized that they needed $437,235 additional in the instruction line item, but they had the ability to transfer that from the administrative attendance and health lines and the pupil transportation line. So it has no net effect on the total budget. It's just moving between categories, but because you appropriate it that way, you have to.
And that, I was trying to figure out, I kept looking at that chart and it didn't look like it was affecting the bottom line.
It's not.
That's the reason I was asking.
No, and it's not.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Perez?
Aye.
5 ayes.
And now we go to the county attorney's report,
No report, Mr. Chair.
county administrator's report.
Mr. Chair, just a few items. First, I want to report that several of us went to Richmond a week ago Friday for the VACO committee updates. After sitting through the morning session, most of us wanted to just run out of the building, but we did stay for the afternoon sessions. The good news is the economy's looking good. The state's recognizing more in revenues. The bad news is that because of various things at the state level, very little, if any, of that's going to make its way down to the localities. There are some handouts that I want to get from VACO that I'm going to scan in and get those to you so you can see some of the fun stuff that we looked at while we were there. But there was no exciting new news in Richmond other than things appear to be pretty much as they have been. I did want to mention to you that we are looking for dates for community meetings that we talked about at the last board meeting, and looking at the month of October for those meetings. Last year we had 4 community meetings, and then we did 2 budget work sessions. What staff would like to recommend is that in looking at those meetings last year, we did not have a meeting in District B or District G. We had a meeting in all the others. So we would like to suggest 2 community meetings during the month of October, one somewhere in District B, one somewhere in District G. The 4 dates I'd like to suggest as possibilities are Thursday, October 10th, Monday, October 21st, Thursday, October 24th, and Tuesday, October 29th. I floated those this afternoon to make sure we weren't conflicting with a school board meeting or a planning commission meeting or any other meeting, and those 4 dates of all the ones I floated seem to be open: October 10th, 21st, 24th, and 29th. So if in the next day or two, and I'll send that out in an email too, but if in the next day or two you see that one of those is not a good date, if you'll let me know.
The Tuesday date isn't great for me. If it could be avoided, if we could look at another date, that would be fine, but otherwise, all the other dates are fine with me.
Okay,
Which day is the Tuesday?
the 29th.
While we're counting the Wednesdays, the Wednesday dates don't work for me.
Well, and none of them were Wednesdays. I stayed off the Wednesdays.
Yes, most people
So-
have church.
Yeah, I stayed off the Wednesdays. I stayed off the Fridays. The Monday is the one Monday of the month.
I'm talking about the wrong thing, because that's the ones that we've moved up, going in for November and December.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, we had to move one of the board meetings for VACO. Yes, sir.
I think there's a couple of those, at least a couple of those that's on Wednesday.
Two, one in October and one in November. So they're both bad days, huh? Okay. Well, I'll get this out, and we're also going to try to find a place for those two meetings, and we'll get that going. I do plan to have, I mentioned this to you last week, I do plan to have an update on the animal shelter planning at the September 9th meeting. Still working on a couple of pieces to provide for you on that. And the last thing I wanted to mention is, and I don't know if everybody had a chance to see it, but I sent out an email earlier today on a proposed resolution supporting the extension of rail passenger service to the New River Valley. I did not know, the only one I heard back from by email was Matt, and he said he certainly supported it, but Supervisor Gabriel's not here tonight. The reason this is kind of a time is of the essence thing, we talked about it last week as staff, the 2013 Virginia Statewide Rail Plan, comments have to be back on that plan by August 31st. And we put together a resolution, basically just says, whereas passenger rail transportation offers a valuable alternative to automotive travel, whereas moving passenger rail travel from automobile to rail saves energy and benefits to the overall physical environment, whereas the New River Valley has infrastructure in place to accommodate rail passenger travel, and whereas a significant need exists for passenger rail travel options to and from the New River Valley, and whereas the potential exists for the expansion of passenger rail service to the New River Valley. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the board that we support extension of rail passenger service to the New River Valley being included in the 2013 Virginia Statewide Rail Plan. If the board would be interested in that, we could...
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Palettis?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you very much, and that's all I had.
Okay. Supervisor Tuck.
A couple of things. One, you saw the fellow with the meat cutting operation, and we haven't had any public comment. Now, the only thing is that Annette, it is in her district, and I didn't know if we wanted to go ahead and pass, since there has been, and traditionally...
It's in my district.
Is it in your
That
district?
looks in
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was thinking...
Go ahead.
But don't we wait till
I thought
the
we
next
would-
meeting?
Usually, but...
Don't we wait till the next meeting?
We have done it in the
We've
past
done it
when
in the
there's
past.
no opposition
Yeah.
at all.
When it's no opposition.
And then we had the planning commission who passed it 6-0. And so that's one of the things I thought we might take up. And so I guess at this point in time, I would move that we adopt a resolution allowing that hit the expansion of the business.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Palettis?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Second thing, I had the opportunity to meet with the Sheriff's Department. And one of the things I was talking with them about is SROs. Last year, and I wasn't aware of this, but after Sandy Hook, the Sheriff's Department evaluated things. And what they did, and I wasn't aware of it, they took someone out of the courthouse that they were using for courthouse security, and they were not telling people what elementary school, the 4 elementary schools out in the county, but they were sending a deputy. And the deputy works 5 days a week. One school, elementary school, the 4 that are out in the county, that deputy would go to on a couple of different occasions. Now, the first primary duty of that deputy was security, but the second was education. And so, as we're looking at the SROs, I still think that if we don't go with the school resource officers and we don't accept that grant, that is in place. I think that needs to be factored in our decision making as we're making that. And while it's not on our agendas tonight, that's something for all of us to chew on. And I thought that was an educational meeting that I had in regards to that. And then I think that we only have, at this point in time, we're going to be advertising for a vacancy on the Planning Commission in District B. And we'll be getting that out shortly. But I think that covers everything that I have.
Okay. Supervisor Creed.
No report.
Supervisor Brown.
Also, Chris, I know the deputy stopped by the schools, but I know out in the Prices Falk Elementary School, the state police also stop by there frequently. You know, I've seen them by, especially during the fall, maybe once a week or something along those lines.
Even more than that. One of the things that, in talking with Deputy Boyer and also Deputy Wright, they indicated that is part of their plan, that they want that patrol officer to be stopping by at random times. There's a lot of different things for us to think about. There's the monetary aspect of it and which direction we need to go. And also factoring in response times, rural area versus an urban area where we've already got police officers. But absolutely, and I should have mentioned that is part of the sheriff's plan is and has been, is that community policing, almost going in and just checking on the schools.
No report.
Okay. Well, I have something to bring to the board, and I was going to try to get an email out on it to kind of forewarn you. Oh, Ms. Biggs.
Well, let me see. The library board and the community services board are looking forward to us appointing members to make their boards complete. And I guess we can send the library board information like you did with the last, we can do that. And Craig and I and Marty went to the, and Brian was there too today, to the MBC Development Corporation, and that is a group that makes small loans to businesses that are struggling to get loans maybe from banks, and they were doing very well and actually looking for businesses to loan to. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, when Craig was talking about going to the VACO meetings, and of course it was sort of depressing again with the, the money situation, but the stormwater management seems to be a big issue, and it's going to be a costly issue, and I guess it's something that we probably will get an update on locally. And the other thing was the right to farm. That was a lot of discussion about that at the VACO meeting. There's a lot of different aspects, I guess, to that. So I thought both of those were interesting. In the education committee, you might be interested in knowing that 89% of the school systems use the state and the state money that had to be matched to give teacher raises, and out of that, 121 actually gave raises. So I thought that was interesting. Not everyone did, but most did, because their folks hadn't had a raise in a long time. So let's see. I think there's also a lot of information on transportation. That was another biggie. So you think we'll do stormwater sometime? I mean, that just seemed like such a costly thing to me.
We are, and as I've mentioned to the board before, we're currently working with the PDC to develop, if you will, a master plan for our ordinances that are going to be required. And also, we've been notified by the state that we're going to be classified as an MS4 stormwater jurisdiction, which requires additional monitoring and compliance issues or efforts. And so I met with Kevin Bird last week. They are continuing to develop some things for us, and that will probably be, that's going to be quite a work session. That's going to take a considerable amount of time, but we'll have that hopefully within the next 30 to 60 days to bring back to the board. It is going to require funds to administer the program, and in all likelihood, it's going to require some additional personnel to administer the program as well, because it's just another function that is being shifted down to the localities.
It's gonna, yeah, it just sounded like it would be costly,
Yeah, it will be.
and that's it.
Okay. Now may I, thank you. I was going to try and get a note out to the board before this meeting on something I've been thinking about, and I've mentioned it to Mr. Meadows and maybe a couple other board members. But I think we have an opportunity, if we can do this legally and without very much objection from the town of Blacksburg, to maybe utilize the old BMS site for parking during the Virginia Tech games. And,
Yeah, I talked to the mayor about that, actually.
but,
I actually talked to the mayor about that, so it's not like they haven't heard about it.
okay.
Because I didn't know if we had to get a special use permit.
Do we have, oh boy.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know, I think,
And we're still getting that answered. I haven't got an answer to that yet either, so we're working on it.
all right.
Good.
Well, it's something I think we could make some money on and do something with the money.
And I could sell lemonade.
And you could, you
Yeah,
gotta get
anything to raise
you
some
have to go
revenue.
to the health department for that.
Yeah. You know, it'd be worth about $15 a slot there, or 20.
Between 15 and 20, I'm
Because
told.
I think they're getting 25 around the municipal building
Yeah.
right there, and just to,
And we have
20
somebody who has
I
done
think
some work for us
yeah.
in the past that I just mentioned it to get some ideas. And he actually has a team through his Rotary Club where they park cars at the Northern Valley Fairgrounds. So he's got a team. They've been doing it for years. They know how to do it. They get paid by the hour, and that would come out of any proceeds, that we would get from it.
as long as we made enough to cover
Well,
that in the beginning.
not that much,
Yeah.
But, Jim, I would be in favor of that if we would agree to put that towards capital projects for the schools, since that money is being
Well,
generated.
either that, or we just have to discuss where it's going to go, but
I'm just saying from
Yeah.
my perspective,
Yeah.
since it
Because it's
is
on
a
school
school,
land.
it's
Right.
school land.
my other thought might have been the foundation, or even the animal shelter, so,
It's actually not the school's land, it's not the school, it belongs to the people of the county. They bought it and paid for it,
Yeah.
and they've let the school use it for a long period of time.
And I agree with you, and I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, in my mind, it is a property that, and we have said, look, if we're able to sell that, we're going to use that money, and by statute, we're going to use it towards the capital improvements in the schools. And I guess that's where I'm coming from. I like the idea, if it was a regular vacant piece of property from the county that hadn't come from the schools, I'd be saying, let's put it towards the animal shelter.
I don't know that we need to discuss where we're going to put it. I think we need to
Just find out
discuss
if we can do it.
if we can do it.
That's
Do we need
step
a
one.
resolution
And
to do
then
that?
decide where it's going to
We
go
have to-
later.
We're not going to put a farmer's market on there, are we?
No.
No.
Maybe later. They need 3 of them in Blacksburg.
Well, it's getting pretty close to the season time, and
Yeah.
so we need to sort of probably get an answer and line somebody
Yeah,
up.
I'd
Hoping
like
to have
to-
all that this
Yeah.
week, and we'll get that back out.
That sounds good.
And I was also at the VACO meeting, and I have to agree with these 2 folks. It was not the best of news, but we have to work what they give us. We got to keep the county going. So, if there's no other business, we didn't need to make a resolution on the parking lot.
Well, he's gonna find
No,
out.
I had more information.
Okay.
Get that back.
All right.
Okay.
If there's nothing else, I move to adjourn.
Okay.